friends, Happy New Year. Welcome to NoClip HQ, where we're putting in the work to get this place spick and span for a whole new year of making documentaries about video games. This is the first such video, and it's all about building a new computer. So in December, I was looking up a bunch of equipment to get stuff we needed to buy, budgeting for the first quarter. Equipment we needed, the network accessible storage I bought last year was sort of the first part of that, but I can't get around it. I need to build a new PC. The last PC I had, I built on a live stream actually, way before NoClip, about 2 years ago. And it's done me well so far, but it's crammed full of hard drives and starting to cough and wheeze a little bit. It can't really run Battlegrounds very well, but then I guess what PC can. So I was sort of looking at different equipment to buy, and while I was doing that, I got a message from Patreon saying that they've been contacted by MSI, who were looking for somebody to send a bunch of stuff to, some creator on Patreon who makes 4K video or would like to. Ta-da! So one of the things that people have been asking us to do as well is when are we going to make the leap to 4K? And to be completely honest, I don't think it's particularly necessary for the type of stuff we do right now, but I do feel like we need to start putting the work in to future-proof our work. So all this stuff here is going to constitute the sort of new main editing rig. This is also really important because the current rig that I have, we need something for Esteban to edit on while he's here, and we also need something to run live streams off of, because at the moment I've been basically doing all of the work on one machine. So this is going to be a dedicated 4K video editing machine that we're going to have here at NoClip headquarters, and I'm basically going to run through all the stuff that's going into it, the build, and then in a separate video we're going to go through all the software that we use, how we hook up to our network accessible storage, and sort of how our workflow works as well. So before we get into all that, let's look at all the sweet boxes we got here. First up, the brains of the operation. The Mobo, the motherboard. This is the X299 MSI's own SLI Plus motherboard. It's quite a beauty to behold, although right now it's in an anti-static bag, so you're going to have to look at these shots we've prepared later. First things first, this is really dumb, but the thing that I care about the most when I look at motherboards is the ports on the back. Because always 6 months later, I'm super angry that it doesn't have enough of what I need. So I'm very happy to announce that this one has bucket loads of USB 3.0 ports at the back. Not only that, but it actually has a USB Type-C port as well, which if you're using Mac as much as we are here is a massive help as well. On top of that, it's got 2 Ethernet ports. I cannot stress enough, if you work with network accessible storage, make sure you get a Mobo with 2 Ethernet ports. If you're trying to work off of your NAS at the same time as downloading something, for instance, the latest patch for PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, one of those will crawl to a halt, or perhaps both of them. It's also got a BIOS button and a CMOS button at the back, which I know has become sort of standard on a lot of motherboards nowadays, but I haven't had one that's got that, so I'm super jazzed about that too. The USB ports also have something that I've never seen before, something called X-Boost, which is MSI's technology, which apparently makes data transfer run that little bit faster. I'm going to be working a lot with Esteban. We're going to be using our NAS a lot, but every now and again you need to really quickly put something onto a USB stick, and apparently it makes it do that really, really fast, depending on the sort of the speed of the stick itself. So another little handy piece of equipment for all you video editors out there. The folks at MSI also pre-installed the chip on this, which I'm super jazzed about. Thank you so much for not making me go through the horror of doing that. There's an Intel i9-7900X on here, which is pretty beefy. It's also got 8 RAM slots. 8. We'll get to the RAM in a second. 8 RAM slots. It's ridiculous. And it had something that my old motherboard didn't have, which is something I was really looking for, which is an M2 slot. It actually has 2 M2 slots. So if you want one of those tiny little hard drives that look like futuristic magic to be on your motherboard, you can actually have 2 of them. On top of that, this one actually comes with a unique piece of kit called the M2 Shield, which is essentially a sort of a heatsink that sits on top of one of your M2 drives as well. Also pre-installed. Thanks, MSI. I actually have no idea how large the M2 drive on this is, whether or not it's large enough to edit off of, or whether it's large enough to have your OS on it, or whether it's large enough to have PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds on it. But what I do know is I have this absolutely massive 3.5 inch drive they've given. This is a Seagate BarraCuda Pro. It is 10 terabytes. which is about the biggest hard drive I think. It is definitely the biggest hard drive I've ever had. 7200 RPM, you don't go much faster than that. I guess they don't go faster than that at all. And yeah, I'm very excited about having this. Like I said, if you're editing, always have redundancy. At the moment, I'm editing a lot off of our NAS, but if you know, you've got assets, or you're pulling stuff over onto your drive, or you're doing backups or anything, video is video, and 4K video is so big that I'm even finding now with drives that I bought that are like 2 terabytes, 4 terabytes, that they just don't cut it anymore, especially with all these patches to play around on Battlegrounds. It's filling up my PC. So I'm super excited for this 10 terabyte BarraCuda Pro. Next onto the memory, we have 4 sticks of 300 megahertz DDR4 sitting here. HyperX Predator. They look baller. I love RAM sticks that look baller. It reminds me of like when people buy Ferraris and then they spend extra on like the stick, like to make it look really nice. It's like no one's ever going to see this. The only time I'm ever going to see this is when I install it, right? Wrong, because they also sent the world's craziest case. I haven't had like a hot gamer case since I was like 19, when I imported this thing that had like teeth on it and it looked baller. But this is something else. This is the MasterCase H500P. The entire side of this is Perspex. So I'm going to be looking at my HyperX Predator RAM on a day-to-day basis. It also has 2 of the most ungodly large fans I've ever, I think they're 200 mil fans. So Coolmaster's not fucking around when they say cool. 2 USB 3.0s at the front, 2 USB 2.0s at the front. It's got all the usual sort of places to hide your SSDs on the inside and all that. Of course, we're talking cases, that means we need to stick a PSU in it. And we have one right here. This is the V750 from the good folks at Coolmaster, which means I know it will fit, which is the most important thing when you buy a PSU. 1, that you get one with enough wattage. I've had that happen before, and 2, that it fits. So I'm always a fan of buying one from the company who made the case. I almost forgot graphics. As you know, one of the best looking games out there, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds, won't just run on anything. So of course we've got the MSI's own GeForce GTX 1080. Very excited about this. I have a 1070 in my current rig, which has been fine, but I am finding that every little piece of my system, you know, you can use GPU rendering and stuff in Premiere, and I'm finding that my exports are not going as fast as I'd like them to, and I feel between the i9 and this guy and the RAM that all that stuff's going to be super sped up, especially when exporting in 4K, which of course is monstrously larger than if you're doing it in regular 1080. And last but not least, the most terrifying part of this whole thing. I've built many PCs in my life, built them all as a teenager. I once was building one and the CPU fan broke, and I looked down and it was because I knocked a pencil off my desk and it wedged in the CPU fan. I've done all the terrible things about building PCs over the years, but the one thing I've stayed away from my entire life has been liquid cooling until today. We have the MasterLiquid 240 from Coolmaster. Maybe not as blazing hot as the MasterLiquid 420, but I'm sure it'll do the job. This one will sit on any Intel and AMD chip, apparently, as long as it fits on the one that I have and doesn't squirt liquid goodness all over the inside of my case. I'll be very, very happy. And that's pretty much it in terms of the stuff that MSI sent. They sent a bunch of stuff. We're gonna cram all that into the case. But I also got 1 or 2 other little bits myself. Was in the market for a new mouse and keyboard. So I went down to my local Best Buy because I cannot stand buying mouse and keyboards over the internet because I'm always terrified that they won't feel good. Like, to me, the most important thing about a mouse and a keyboard, it's like buying a chair. It's all about ergonomics. So I went down and using sort of things that I like about other brands that I've used in the past, as well as sort of like just playing around with them. I picked up these 2. This is the G910 Orion Spectrum. This is one of Logitech's keyboards in their sort of gaming range. The reason I like this one is because it has these keys, the Roamer G keys, which are mechanical keys, but they're not as loud as regular ones. And I know there's a lot of companies out there making mechanical keyboards that are really, really good, and they're very clicky clacky, and that's fine. I stream a lot, and I also play without my headphones on a lot, and I cannot stand the sound of mechanical keyboards. What I like about the ones that have the Roamer G on them is that they have that same sort of like impact feel without that clicky clackiness. So I'm looking forward to getting some time in with that. And then I bought I think this is my first ever Razer mouse. This is the Razer Mamba tournament edition. So you'll see me in all the hot tournaments for PlayerUnknown's background. What I like about this one is it fits good in my hand. It's the most important thing. Also, you can click the mouse wheel sideways, which seems like some Dota 2 shit. I don't know what I'll use that for, but cool. Okay, we've got to build a machine now, but I'm not gonna do that on a pool table because that sounds like a static disaster waiting to happen. So let's move this over to a different place, somewhere with lots of wood. I'll take off my socks, strap myself to a radiator, and build a computer. All right, first things first, motherboard's gotta go in the case. Before you do that, you need to screw in these little sort of like stints, little platforms. I don't know what the technical term for them is, but I call them sons of bitches because I hate them. Before you do anything else though, when you're building a machine, I cannot recommend getting a tool set any higher. For instance, those little guys, the first time I ever did it, I did it with my fingers. It's an absolute nightmare. If you have a pliers or even like a tiny little socket wrench, it can help a lot. I bought this little kit, I don't know, like maybe 10 years ago, off of Amazon for like 15 bucks. It's done me well. Comes with everything you'll need, a bunch of screwdrivers. You never know with different products. There's sort of standardization across the board now, but some stuff it always gets a little bit weird in terms of sizes and you need little pinhole screws. So it's good to have a full set. Also comes with an anti-static wrist strap. The thing about static is just don't wear socks on the carpet, touch a radiator if you have those in your house. If you don't, touch anything that's plugged in, your computer case works. This thing isn't grounded until we get the PSU in and it's plugged on, so a lot of people strap themselves to the case, but it's kind of redundant at this stage. If you're working on a computer that's like operating or that has been built, then sure, that kind of works. But until then, just like best practices. All right, I've got my little stints in. So the next thing to do is to pick up this guy and put it on and then forcibly insert lots of things into it. This board has, for a standard ATX board, I think it's about 9 screws. I've ran out of screws in the past and just had 7 or 8 of them, and it's never caused me a problem, but I'm not gonna chance it this time because I've got like a million screws here. All right, so we got the power supply in. These Coolmaster cases are pretty modular, so it involved pulling out a bunch of the sort of bays that they have here. It's a super small PSU though, which is really nice, so it's got plenty of space here. But one of the coolest things I like about modern cases is screwless design, and this, for me, one of the best uses of this is with hard drive bays. Screwing in hard drives, especially when you have multiple hard drives, can be incredibly irritating and time consuming. Coolmaster has these little screwless little bays. You just click on little notches into the 4 screws on the outside of it. 2.5 drives, you just drop them right in, and then effectively just get this thing, you just slide it on in. So, easy does it. Okay, it's 15 hours later and I've managed to get the water cooler system almost entirely hooked up. I could have put it anywhere on the top here, and I went for sort of plumb center just to, I don't know, mostly so the pipe here, the coolant will kind of sit nicely on the processor, and also the Coolmaster words will face the right way, which is a thing I care about. But now is the moment of truth, the least enjoyable part of building a PC for me, which is putting the thermal paste on the processor. I always remember it's always a pea-sized, like a small pea, not like a fat, like boiled green pea, like a fucking tiny little dude. So I have a reference picture here to help me. Esteban built a PC like 2 months ago, and you think it's about pea-shaped?
Yeah, it's about pea-shaped.
Yeah, we're pea-shaped, yeah. Right. So we'll test it out. So, just to steady the nerves, couple of them. Hit the Bombay Sapphire later. Okay. Oh, Jesus. Do you go four dot method, one method? I go for 1.
I did 4 my last one, but usually 1. Okay,
let's go for 1 there. How do we feel about that?
That's probably good.
That looks good. That looks comparable. I think that's about right. You don't want to go too much is the thing. You don't want to go too little either. I'm going to go tiny bit more. okay. And then once this dude sits on top of it, it should do the rest of the work and squirm it all around. So I've only got one shot of cable management on this thing, so I'm gonna make sure it's looking okay. I kind of like it like that. I like bendy wires sitting around like that.
As long as it doesn't break.
As long as what?
As long as it doesn't break.
As long as it doesn't break, that's true. I did slam this together earlier as well. I could hear you grimacing when I did it. That looks and feels flush to me. It feels like it is. So next thing, I'm just gonna screw these little dudes on. As with most things screwing, if you're used to doing carpentry or anything like that, you always know you go diagonal. Next. Because if you don't, then your last one's gonna really suck. And what I like, sorry, what I was saying is I like about these screws as well is that they have notches in them if you need an emergency to get them out, but they intentionally don't put like screwdriver ridges in them to stop people from using screwdrivers, which is over tightening is a big problem. And then there are some crazy people that use power tools to assemble PC components. Yeah, the video, I literally just did a video that and they were like, yo, don't do that. That's not a good idea. That should be it. So it should be stuck fast. Sitting on it right. This thing will light up apparently, very nice. And we've also got our pipe coming up the way. So our 4 extra RAM slots here are clear. Nice looking RAM is like one of my favorite dumb things about loving video games and loving computers. That like people put the effort into making RAM look like it's gonna eat your family. Look at that stuff. Look at that. Look at that. Look at the unnecessary edges all over this RAM.
It's like convertible.
It is. It's like an angry convertible. It's like, what are the bad Transformers called? Decepticons? Oh, God. It's like if a Decepticon turned into a piece of RAM, it would look like a HyperX. Actually, while we're talking about sexy looking pieces of hardware, I do have to put this in a second, but I've installed a million graphics cards, so I don't care. But this thing looks like fucking sex. I absolutely love this card. Here it is, folks. The 1080, which looks like a Ferrari. This is the 2-liter 16-cylinder. Oh, I should have done that. Just looks great. I don't know, this is probably like, I never splash out on graphics cards. So again, thanks so much to MSI for sending all this stuff over from Taiwan. In fact, the manual for this was in Taiwanese. This is probably the nicest graphics card I've ever owned. It's like ridiculous. Look at all this stuff. Look at, I love that it comes up with a DVI-D port just in case. Just in case you want to use this computer to do a sick PowerPoint presentation at your local school. 3 display ports and 1 HDMI, I think. I'm also a big fan of the DisplayPort logo because it looks like the Patreon logo, which is probably impossible to come up on this camera right now. But that's cool. Always good to have 1 HDMI, but if you're not using DisplayPort at this stage, probably want to give yourself a little upgrade. I never leave these things in. I don't like that, so I'm going to take them all out. And then put this thing in. The RAM went in super easy. RAM is one of those things, like water coolers. Once you've done one of these things once, it's easy. So I have no problem putting this stuff in. Putting RAM in or putting graphics cards in. Except when I unscrew the wrong lane, which I totally just did. Also now it makes a lot more sense why this M2 shield is over the M2 drive here. This one doesn't, this one has one here. It's because the GPU is going to sit directly on top of it, so I guess every little helps in that regard. All right, so you should go in here then and be a happy bunny. All right, that's everything in. And now the fun job of making sure it's all getting power and feeding data. So this is probably going to take about 20 minutes. We probably won't show this in great detail, but here's me plugging in every single USB port, headphone jack, hard drive, power supply, and fan into the PSU. Let's check it out. All right, everything's plugged in, I think. And I found an American kettle lead because the one they sent was not from here. But they did send an adapter. They did really think of everything. Where's the adapter gone? I don't know, they sent an adapter, oh yeah, here it is. They sent this very nice adapter, so thank you very much. And also they sent this tiny dragon, which is the MSI dragon apparently. You're a good luck charm, you sit there. Okay, there's no, we'll post it in a second. I just want to see if it turns on first. Mostly I want to see the water cooler doesn't explode and kill this whole thing. Okay, so that's on, switch on. And then, cross your fingers. Okay, front fans, no, and we're off. Okay, so something's wrong. Let's see what turns on. Front, one fan turns on at the front. 2 fans turn on at the front. 003 and a red light up there. So let's try and make a post and see how that does. She lives! It lives! We had a little hiccup where I had the RAM seated in the wrong slots. Whoops! But thanks to the power of Lucky the Dragon and the MSI manual, we managed to figure it out. So that's it. We have a new 4K editing machine. At least it's posting, so that's something else. I gotta do all the boring installing Windows stuff next. But thanks so much for watching this. Thanks so much MSI for sending us all this incredible equipment. And let us know what you think. If you liked it, put it in the comments, send me Patreon messages and all that jazz, and we might do another video showing you how to do all the software, setting up Premiere, how we access our network drive and all that. I'm interested in what you thought about this and whether you'd like more videos like this, so please put them in the comments, and we'll see you next time. Yes! I can't wait to play Battlegrounds on this!